All right, joining us now in the Sevens Club, the captain of the team that, pulled off two of the craziest comebacks in soccer history, AJ DeLaGarza from Zala FFF, LA Galaxy, New England and beyond. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
What's up, AJ? How you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. Living out here in Charlotte, and it's 40 degrees today. Nobody told me that it got this cold. So,
Ooh, that's fresh.
now I'm missing Florida a little bit. So,
The warm weather.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it got a little cool last night around like 8 o'clock. It was like 85.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's supposed to be a little bit cooler today, like maybe 80. I don't know. But I love the warm weather. So
My wife has already put the pumpkins away, and we're pulling out the Christmas stuff. So,
yes,
Christmas,
it's Buble season.
it's winter.
That's it.
Yeah.
AJ, before we started recording, you were talking about, retired life and the aspects of camp and the games that you're not missing. So I want to start there. You're now retired except for TST, we'll say. But what are you feeling now that the MLS, the first season that you're really not a part of, is wrapping up? What are your thoughts on when your career ended and how you're feeling, and what are you happy that you didn't have to deal with this year?
Yeah, I think in the middle of last year is when I started thinking about retirement, and uh, I would wake up in the mornings and I would have to put 2 feet on every step to come down the stairs, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm not." It might be coming to an end, and obviously I wasn't playing as well, so that was another factor. It's like I'm not a person to sit here and put myself through this pain every day to reap no rewards or benefits at the end, So I was like, I can start the next chapter of my life. But when that preseason came around in 2023, I was like, man, I'm gonna miss it a little bit. Probably when guys are out there posting their photos of being back in preseason and the season starting, and I couldn't be happier that I was not in preseason and having to keep my body in tip-top shape, literally 24/7. And everyone thinks that we play soccer and we just play a 90-minute game at the end of the week, but it's literally everything in between there that prepares you for that one game, and it's brutal.
Yeah, it's a grind for sure, especially as you get older. It's more of the maintenance and what you have to do consistently every single day. Because the young bucks are coming in and they're trying to take your spot, but also it's like once you get that mentality to really stay focused on your craft and you create these really good habits, but it's definitely a grind, man, but it's a grind that you love, right? And it's trying to find that grind in a different way to keep our sanity safe, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because these kids are coming in man, I told one kid last year, I was like, his mom was the same age as me. So I'm like this is insane. And these kids are so good at this age now. If they can just get those little fine tune those little things, man, I think this next generation will be very, very good for us.
It's more from what it's more the mindset. It's like the fundamentals, the base
Yep.
things
Exactly.
that I think they're used to maybe given things being given to them. Obviously you and I didn't grow up in academy systems, and it was club teams and all that kind of stuff, and kind of had to like graft and find our way, and obviously get selected and go to a college. And then if you go to a college, you're lucky enough to get selected in the MLS combine and all that kind of stuff. But now they have these feeder programs, and sometimes the kids are kind of given everything. So when they get to the first team, they don't last long because their work ethic's not there, or they have bad habits because they didn't have to roll their sleeves up a little bit. And then what happens to those players? They just it's a domino effect, essentially, right?
And I think it's a lot easier. Like when I came in 2009, there was no second team, there was no reserve league. So you either play or you don't play. And
Yeah.
thankfully Bruce gave me that opportunity, and I played quite a bit. But now it's like, you're not doing well, I can just send you down to USL and you may never come back up. That's the reality of that.
Yep.
And stuff. and that kind of, it's good and I think bad. So
AJ,
It's more up. Go ahead, Andrew.
well, I was just going to say, I'm sure you've done a lot of, reflecting. You just mentioned when you started in 2009. I'm sure you've done a lot of reflecting over your career the past few years or so. Like, what were some of the high points for you, but then also some of the low points? You talked about how now it's like, hey, you could go down to USL or whatever, but like, what are some of those MLS low points like? And then in contrast, the high points when you're winning championships.
yeah, I think early on in my career, those LA Galaxy days, we were obviously stomping on Jeff Cameron and Houston Dynamo. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, turn off the lights in the stadium. It didn't happen. It didn't happen once, Andrew. It happened twice. We're popping them. We're getting back into the game, and all of a sudden, the lights go off, and you're like, "What happened?" MLS Cup final. What? And then at Western Conference final, it happens again. We're like, "Wait, surely there's something happening here." So yeah. Anyways, if you have to turn the lights off to beat the Houston Dynamo, that's all right. But go ahead, my man.
Yeah, that was my rookie year. But I mean, the high points were obviously the winnings and just that camaraderie we had early on. And the low points for me were the injuries. I think in Houston and crazy injury in Miami. All stories that are. Well, that one is a crazy story. I cut my ankle trying to change the lever of a toilet, and I popped the whole side of the toilet off, ceramic toilet, and sliced my leg open right before MLS's back tournament. But yeah, I think the injuries, and then obviously an ACL tear in Houston, broken foot in Houston. So those were the low points where you're like, man, what am I doing here? Do I need a change of scenery? Just to kind of find yourself again. And yeah, those are the lowest points, I think, for me.
And what did you do during those low points? I mean, obviously, being a professional, and I don't think you really can go throughout your career without actually having an injury or, playing without an injury at some point in your career, right? But what was your mentality when you go through the lows? Because I've experienced it, and it's like the unknown, right? Like you don't know what's going to happen. You're thinking of the worst case scenarios. It could be my last game, XYZ. But how was your mindset on that situation? Like, what did you do to keep yourself motivated? What do you keep yourself focused? What do you tell yourself?
Yeah, that's tough, right? Because that was my very first major injury was an ACL tear, and I was literally on my 30th birthday getting ACL surgery. So it was like, man, I'm hitting that 30s, and now this is happening to me. It's like, will I ever get back to where I was? And to be fair, I don't think I ever did. And that's just reality. Most people don't. And you tell yourself every day, like trying to make small goals and not make it a goal that's so far into the future. Like some people are like, oh, I want to come back in 6 months. I want to come back in 5 months. And it was, for me, it's like, if I can get a little bit better every day, the journey will be however long it needs to be to get back. And around 6 months, I was feeling really, really good. And I was out there training. And then one of the first full training sessions, I go and tear my quad, which I use my quad to repair my ACL. So same size. So out another month. So just setbacks were happening. But it was crazy because in Houston, where you have the team locker rooms and then they had the PT center. Like I was in the PT center and the windows are right out to the field. So every morning I'm doing PT, looking out, seeing guys playing. And it was brutal. And I was like, man, I want to get back out there as soon as possible, but as safe as possible as well.
And it's a grind because, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because people don't realize it's a positive and a negative, right? Like you go there, it's going to be a long-term injury and you're like, oh shit, I'm in there every single day. It's like Groundhog Day. You go in there and you're like, okay, I got to put a smile on my face, and you're like disappointed. You're going through that grieving process essentially, right? And then you find a little bit, and then you get a little confidence. You start getting better, and you can do a little bit more in the gym. But then it goes back to the Groundhog Day thing again, and it's like you're looking outside and you're like, I just want to get the hell out of here. So then, like being in in my experience in England, at that point in time, it would be 2 to 3 weeks. You kind of start your first initial rehab program with the club, and then boom, they'll send you off. And it's like, here's a month or whatever, they'll send a physio out with you, and you go to warm weather training. And it's just literally for the mind and the body. And it's like, okay, here you go. This is where I can focus, re-energize. And then it's like, you kind of miss being back in the training, but it gives you that break mentally. And then you come back, and then it's like you're pushed on, and you have that little bit of a kickstart again that you needed.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. I think I went to a national team camp for Guam. I obviously was injured, but like the camp was in Chula Vista in San Diego, and I was like, let me go there just to get me a mental break, like, and just give me whatever you want me to do, running, whatever, workout wise, and I'll do it there. Like, just need some, I need a break from this four walls right here in the window. So, yeah, the mental part is the biggest one, because at the same time, you can be in the gym, nobody's watching you. You have a program on your phone that you're following, and you're like, man, I'm not doing all this shit. Like, you can cut corners if you want to. You can skip reps, but at the same time, I was like, that's not going to help me
get back on the pitch,
go faster. So you have to kind of take accountability for your own rehab.
And that goes to show, like, when you're a professional and you're in it, your mindset has to be like that. Where I think maybe now the generation, or maybe their mindset might not be, because you actually have to like hand feed them a little bit, right? Like you gotta watch them and monitor them, because it's all about cutting corners. And like, we know, like, you do recovery, you're like, I don't really want to do that. It's like, but then you look back after your career and you have a time to reflect. You're like, I get it. That's why I did it. That's why they were having us do X, Y, Z to recover, make sure we're right. And you buy into the program. And it was just more of the mindset of like, can you get that 1% better? And then you think to yourself, I'm in this place, I'm rehabbing my knee, and I got to do everything I can, because I want to get back out there and play. And it's kind of it makes it really hard, but it builds your character up. It just builds this robustness around you.
I think you learn a lot about yourself during
For
injury.
sure. How did the transition? I know you talked about Guam, and how did the transition from, with the national team, US, and then going to Guam, how did that all pan out? And because, my experience, you were in the national team camp, I think a January camp, and then all of a sudden I see you're gone, and now you're with Guam. So
I mean,
talk to us about how that all kind of played.
Yeah, so my grandma's from Guam on my dad's side. I'd never been to Guam before, but they'd reached out early on in my career. I have some friends, obviously, that I grew up with that were playing on the team as well. And he would hit me up, like, yo, you come play with us. And I was like, man, my goal is to play for the U.S. national team. Obviously, that's everyone's goal. Yep. I was like, I'm not ready at this point. And then I got called up to, I think it was 4 January camps in a row, but obviously those are what they were, like MLS guys. And, the crazy part, and it was with Jurgen and Bob Bradley. So like 2 different coaches. Yep. The thing for me was I would get called in to these camps and be playing right back, but I played the whole MLS season as a center back. And, at that, that level is just different. Like, I wasn't a right back. I was a center back, a player that read the game very well and gave it to people that can make those plays and get us out.
The creative ones.
Yeah, the creative players. I was the thinker. And so making that jump to the international stage, I think, really hurt me. And then I just saw that I wasn't a top tier guy. And that's self-reflection right there. Like, I know where I stood without even having to ask. At that time, I think it was Jurgen was the coach. And I was like, look, I'm going to go play international soccer for Guam and try to make a difference for the national team. When I got there, they were losing games. They were hoping not to lose games by double digits. And I was like, well, that's just not where I come from. Like, I was coming from the Galaxy. obviously in
Winning
contention,
team.
championships every year, like, and then you go to something like that, and the fields are bad. The refs in Asia are worse than MLS. And just the accommodations were just totally different than what I was used to. But it was still an amazing experience. I got to travel the world and play in Asia and countries that most people from America can't even get into, like to go to visit. Like I was going there to play games, and I still think that was an exciting thing. But at the same time, it was hard. I remember one time I tracked how many hours it took to get to where I needed to go in Asia, and from door to door, from LA to wherever it was in Asia, it was 36 hours. So then you gotta get up the next day. Sometimes I'll get up the very next day and play a game, and then come back to LA and try to play a game the next day as well. And injuries obviously
Of course.
kept happening. You know, little.
That's a domino effect waiting to happen.
Yeah, but,
AJ, I apologize for not knowing the schedule of the last 10 years for the Guam national team, but did you ever play against the US, and was that something you hoped would happen?
That would have been exciting for the Guam players, but I don't think we were ready for that at any level, honestly. And you know, we unfortunately did not fare well in World Cup qualifiers. You know, we went to Iran, we went to Oman, which were very good teams. Iran was in the World Cup, and you know, they beat us 7-0 on their home soil. And then but we did win our first 2 World Cup qualifiers in history, and those were at home. We beat Turkmenistan and India, so obviously countries that are well beyond the size of Guam, the little island. And you know, we showed ourselves well, but we're still trying to push the national team to move on to that next level, though.
Now, do you have any affiliation? Are you helping the federation out at all? The Guam national team, have they asked, you know, obviously a guy like yourself that, you know, lives in the US, and I'm sure there's players that are have links to Guam, and that could help grow the national team or the federation.
There are a couple. I know there's one actually player in Houston actually, and I reached out to him, but he was like me, and he was on that fence of the US, and do I jump to Guam? And that's a very hard decision to make, especially if you think you have a pathway to the men's US national team. So it's tough to go to Guam with the travel and obviously the level. And you know, with those guys, though, obviously we could make a better push. But we just had World Cup qualifying last month, and you know, they were the first team to be bumped out of the World Cup this year. So you know, they played. Man,
AJ for president then.
Yeah, something. I almost made a comeback. I almost went back, but they asked me to come back and play those games. It was a home and away game.
That could have been cool.
Yeah, I was contemplating it, but I was like, you know what? It's my time's over. Now it's let these young guys get that experience and really push that next group of guys into hopefully one day making it further in World Cup qualifying.
Yeah. We at TST definitely would have covered you know, coming out of retirement to play again with the Guam national team. I want to talk about TST, and I want to talk about 2 guys specifically that could and should play in TST. I'll bring them up in a second, but you guys, Zala FFF, literally the comeback kids, like the definition of the comeback kids. You guys would be down going into target score time a lot in some instances and come all the way back and win. First question to you is kind of a softball. What did you think of target score time?
Well, I thought it was amazing because it gave us a real chance to come back. But I was telling someone yesterday, like that tournament and the ending is, I think, what we all grew up doing, right? Last goal wins, like you score and everyone celebrates like that. Those are those pickup games that you play as a kid, and to have that in a real tournament setting, I think was obviously very cool, because you saw all the guys like myself, Jeff, all these Mike McGee, all these guys who had play at a very high level, like how much we really enjoyed it, and just looking forward to trying to run it back a little bit. But
you guys had a strategy that Jeff has talked about, which is basically have your best players ready to go in target score time. Did you go into the tournament with a strategy? Did it change throughout the tournament? Like, what was your guys' strategy once you got to the knockout rounds?
I don't know if we had one, but like,
Sounds familiar.
yeah, it was tough. We only had one training or two training sessions before the tournament. And to be fair, when early on in this, I was like, man, the players that I have are like, we're going to cakewalk through this. And I remember Lee Win telling me, he's like, it's not going to be that easy. I was like, yes, it is, bro. Like, all these old guys are coming, but it was a very good level. And I was not expecting that. And that'll prepare me for next year. But I knew the biggest thing was that we wanted a goalkeeper that can play with his feet. And obviously, I think we had one of the top keepers in the tournament, and to be able to play with his feet was huge for us. And to be fair, I don't think the way other teams played helped us. Like, it was very tough for our keeper would walk the ball out of his own box because everyone was playing man on man. And like, we thought people would step and try to attack, and then we could, play through the lines and all that. And everything you planned for just didn't happen. So we were being booed in the semifinal game against the Canadian team because we were playing so slow. But yeah, it was.
But it ended up working out because it went down to that 1v1, all right, a 2v1, right, towards the end, the semifinal.
Not the semifinals. It was it went to 3v3 in the quarter.
And Mikey scored, right?
Como, yeah. Mikey and Tony were amazing for us. So
yeah, I remember because but it really is like, it's that competition, man. Like, you love it. It's in our blood, and no matter what, you're like, all right, just go through it, fight the pain. I just remember Breck and I were back in the hotel just doing ice baths in the hotel bath, and it's like, it's what you do. It kind of took us back to childhood days, like when you're doing like tournaments, going with your mom and your dad, and they're taking you to different places and
multiple games per day.
yeah, exactly. You're like, what? They're playing 4 games this weekend? This is crazy. And then as a professional, like, wait, you only play like 1 game a week, if that, right? And it's crazy if you have 2 games in a week. But
I don't think these kids,
man, it was
like the academies, they don't play multiple games in a day like we used to have to.
No. But then it's like, yeah, the sports science and all that kind of stuff is now, but it's it's just that feeling. It took us back to where we were as a kid and what we dreamed of. And it gave us that little excitement. It gave us that kind of that outlet, right? Like, it's an area it was a space where we could just do what we love, and it gives us a platform. So I'm super excited for this next one, and I can't wait to 2-foot you, AJ.
I hope we make it. Hope we both make it far again.
Yeah, bro. Have it go to the finals.
AJ, you had a player named Drake, and he has a super cool story because me and we were at the test game together. You tested out some TST rules, and Drake won. Jeff, I don't even know if you know the story. Drake won MVP at the test game, and he got $100 bill. We show up at TST. He's on your team, AJ. So 1, that feels like tampering and illegal. You're under investigation from TST. And 2, how did that happen? What made you make that decision to add, basically an unknown kid that you just happened to play with at the test game?
Yeah, I was playing with those guys or a little bit after that anyways, just pickup. And I saw Drake's qualities. He was obviously a young kid who was really good in 1v1 situations in open space. And again, I thought another player that I could utilize was like, oh, he's going to have a ton of space to run at people, but it wasn't the case. Like, everyone was packed it in. And, but he's a very good and a very bright kid. And, but I was training with him for a little bit, and I was like, yo, you do want to play in TST with us? And I reached out to him. I think it was via email. I got his email, so I sent him an email. He didn't respond for like over a month, and I was like, oh man, like he must not want to play. And then I think I found him on Instagram, and I DM'd him there, and he was like, oh, I never got an email. I was like, bro, I had the wrong email the whole time. You almost lost out on coming to TST. Like, but he was down. He loved it. Good experience for him as well. But yeah, it was a funny little story. I had to put together a squad of some players that I didn't know, but they were all recommendations from somebody on our team. So
Well, you're the gaffer then.
Well, Lee Win was a gaffer, but I was trying to put the
You're the
pieces.
sporting director.
Yeah, we worked hand in hand on this project. So
2 free agents Zala FFF needs to sign. I don't know why there's balloons popping up, but 2 free agents that Zala FFF needs to sign. The first one, you may know him, Landon Donovan. The second one, you may know him, David Beckham. I think you've played with both of them. I'm sure you have things to say about them. Do you think they would translate into TST well?
Ooh, man, to be fair, I'm trying to go younger this next.
Going back age.
No, yeah, obviously 2 of the best players that I ever had the chance to play with, and but I do think that it's very tough, myself included, for these older players. You saw the West Hams and Dortmunds come with some legends of the game, and we struggled against these younger kids who can. They're good. They can pass. They move. They just nonstop press and all that. So
it's more the football and the indoor futsal. And so that was the hardest part.
They just know how to play the game and how to move off each other. Like we are used to 11v11. You almost stay in your lane almost. But those guys interchange. It was incredible to watch.
And that's what the interesting is. If you take them and put them on 11v11 field, they wouldn't have a clue. And then you put that, and it was kind of like an adjustment. Like this is kind of a half and half. What we have to figure out. Yeah. Okay, what works? And I remember, I forget what team we played, but they were like World Cup champions for 7v7. Bro, like, bro, we just put all the guys behind the ball and we just waited for the counterattack and we won. That's how it did. It was like we knew exactly they wanted to keep rotating us. As soon as one person steps out, boom, they just slice us through. So we're like, just keep your shape, and we'll hit them with a counter. Because you knew like you would have the quality and you would be able to withstand it. It's a little bit of cat and mouse essentially, but
most surprised that the 2 teams that were in the finals were teams that played 7. So
yeah,
and one of them
teams that have been together for a little bit, right? Like they know each other,
not just thrown together for a tournament.
I mean, dude, we didn't really know. I mean, I knew half the team, and then we had a bunch of guys like bail out the last couple minutes. And
I was scrambling on deadline day, man. Like I literally had 5 goalies sign up just in case, and I lost 4 of them, so I only had 1. The starting goalie didn't show up to our training camp, so I didn't even know if he was going to show up to TST.
Right.
It was a struggle. And we started the first game. We started with a defender in goal, by the way.
I didn't know that.
2 keepers on our bench. We started with a defender in goal. That was Lee Wynn's coaching right there. Obviously, we wanted somebody that could play with his feet really well. And
did he win though? Did you guys win the first game?
Bro, that was against Mike McGee's team. And
yeah, Lee, bad choice, bad decision.
Oh, we kept changing goalies though that game.
Oh, okay. Every 2 minutes on the sideline.
When we got scored on in the extra time, we had the defender in goal. So that one hurt a little bit. And then there was the game in Como, right? And we're obviously down. And he yells to our player, he's like, "Yo, get your gloves on." And I was like, "No." Like, bro, we're not putting him in goal. And then obviously we come back to win that game. So
that was during that game, I was on the Como sideline, like ready to film the reaction to Como. And I'm like, all right, okay, they got a goal. Maybe we'll get their reaction in a second. And then all of a sudden the reactions on the bench were them like kind of arguing, yelling at each other, like, we got to figure this out. And I kind of shifted over to, the Zala bench to be ready to roll with that. Cause obviously we had cameras everywhere. That game, Zala FFF as a whole, but then the Como game, like that was like, hey,
insane.
This target score time works. This target score time is wild. Like we're not messing with this. This is here to stay. Last question from me, and Jeff, I don't know if you got anything else before we got AJ out of here. Last question from me. You're staying ready. You're going to be training for TST. What are you doing to train?
Man, I'm following all the routines from Zala, the guys that I work with. They're very good at what they do and making sure that I'm staying on top of my workouts and all that. I still play indoor a little bit. I have a semifinal game tonight against some guys that this might be my last season, because you can tell who has kids and who doesn't. Like, I have to wake up in the morning and take care of my kids. I have to be able to walk. Like, these guys have no care. They'll throw you into the boards, or people are getting red cards. And I'm like, bro, this is not for me anymore. Like, and if I get hurt, like, who's gonna pay for surgeries now? It's like, I don't got no workers' comp. So yeah, I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff. But I have a good team behind me that is keeping me ready and in shape.
Jeff, anything from you before we let AJ go on with his retired life?
No, man, keep going, bro. It's fun. You know, it's obviously it's a chapter that, you know, myself, Breck, and, you know, all the guys that we kind of grew up in the same kind of era of all taking the next step into retirement, and and it's different. But I think with our mindset and our focus and how we got to where we were professionally is the same transition that we will do off the field, because that's just how our mindset is. So good luck to you, bro.
Appreciate it, man. We're relentless, I think, in that aspect.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that we do, we're gonna do it to the best ability. And, you know, that's just how
We're
I grew
grafters, bro. Grafters. That's it. Roll up the sleeves, hard work, and
Yeah.
eventually it's like we've done it, we've experienced it, and now it's like you want to take all that and put it together, and whatever you decide and whatever you want to do, it's like you have this knowledge and you just want to share. So that's what's up, man.
Sure, man.
I'll see you at TST, bro.
Hey, I got some surprises, I think, next year for you guys. So
Ooh, I love it.
keep it on the down low.
Ooh, are you saying like some big names? What do you got, some big names?
You see, I can't tell you.
Okay.
Can't
Okay.
even
All
give you a little hint yet.
Say what?
I can't even give you a little hint yet.
Oh, okay. We'll have to
Thanks for coming on,
recruiting.
AJ. We'll pry the secrets out of you once we're done recording, which is
Yeah.
right now. But thanks, man.